So we start with an oven, and this is any artifact that leaves the thing will do the thing. So if we can first do this, and it will still activate this, we're going to go straight to face. Perfect. We now have a food, so we bring back this. We sacrifice this food, which lets us ping him. It's going to be really close, guys. I don't know if I can pull it off. Welcome back to another video, my friend. I'm Blake and you're you, and this is Rakdos Anvil in Explorer. So let's start taking a look at this deck list. It is called Rakdos Anvil because it is themed around the Oni-Cult Anvil out of Champions of Kamigawa. It is a 2-mana artifact that says whenever one or more artifacts you control leave the battlefield during your turn, create a 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature token. This ability only triggers once each turn. So you're trying to sacrifice or find a way to get other artifacts to leave the battlefield so that you can create a 1/1 token, but then you also get to tap it, sacrifice an artifact. Oni-Cult Anvil deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain a life. So if you can get that 1/1 construct on the battlefield, basically every turn you can create one of those by sacking one to ping your opponent for 1 while healing yourself for 1. Now, this is a combo that seems a little bit familiar to the cat Cauldron, if you're familiar with it. Cauldron Familiar is the 1-mana cat that when it enters, each opponent loses 1, you gain 1, and you can sacrifice a food to return it to the battlefield. Now this pairs extremely nicely with the Witch's Oven, which lets you sack a creature to create a food. So it's another little loop. There are no infinite combos in the deck, but it's more of a deck where every turn you're draining for 1, 2, or 3 life, healing a couple life, and kind of controlling the board through a grindy mid-range strategy. Now we also have at the top end a Mayhem Devil, which is extremely powerful card. It's a 3/3 for 3, and every time you sack something, you get to ping a damage, so lots of synergies right there. Both the Anvil and the Cat Oven combo want to be sacrificing things. For card draw, we have Deadly Dispute, which as an additional cost, you sacrifice an artifact or creature, things you already want to be doing, and then you draw 2 and create a treasure. We also have 4 Duress. Now this is just because I don't yet have my copies of Thoughtseize. I'm on a pretty strict budget on this channel, so we are running 4 copies of Duress. Certainly not as good as the Thoughtseize, but getting the information is quite nice, and it's still a good 1-drop. 4 Fatal Push, very good card. You get to destroy anything with mana value 4 or less because you have no problem getting rid of things on your own turn. If you end up hitting bigger things than that, it does become a problem, but that's okay. The Experimental Synthesizer, also out of Kamigawa, works really nicely. When this artifact comes in for 1, you exile the top card of your library and you can play it till end of turn, and then you can pay 3 and sack it to create a 2/2 white samurai token, but anytime it leaves, no matter how you do that, it also exiles a top card again. So sacking this is an extremely good target. We have 4 copies of the Voldaren Epicure, which is a 1/1 for 1, and when it comes in, it pings for 1 and creates a blood token, and that blood token is, yes, an artifact that you can sacrifice, and in sometimes you just pay 1 and discard a card to get that card draw going. We do have 2 copies of the Voltage Surge, just another removal spell that also allows you to sacrifice an artifact, and then just because we can, we have a companion in this deck, which is a Gigantha. So it already doesn't run any cards with more than 1 of the same mana symbol in its cost. So Gigantha is just sort of a free companion for this deck. You don't really want to be casting Gigantha. Those are really the games where things have gone wrong, but it's a good backup option in those games that go long or you don't draw your cards and you're just sitting on some extra mana. So that's how the deck works. Let's jump into a few games and see what you guys think about it. Okay, so jumping into our first game here, we do have 3 lands. We have a 1-drop and our Anvil. This is a totally fine hand to keep. Really anything that allows us to start getting any combination of the Cauldrons or the Anvils going. We also have a piece of removal and we've got the lands we need. So this is quite a nice start and I think will be a good example of how the deck runs. So, and it has a lot of turn 1 plays, which is really quite fun. We get to ping for 1 and get started on our strategy right away. So that's going to be great. Now a couple things that we do need is we need something to give us an artifact to sacrifice. Would certainly be ideal, and so at this point, because we don't have an artifact to sacrifice, we're better off to just play a second cat and hold up a Fatal Push just in case he plays some relevant 2-drop here. we can just squash that and get in for a little more ping damage, because we really want them to feel the pressure once we start accumulating those engines and get those things really going off. So we're going to go ahead and go to our next turn. I think a good play is to go ahead and just set up the Anvil, even though there's not a lot to do here with it. That's totally fine. We'll just get it out and be ready. They obviously know exactly what our strategy is now. They're probably familiar with the deck. I'd say this deck is competing somewhere around the top 10 to 15 decks of the format. It's definitely not at the top, but it's certainly good enough. The Explorer meta is pretty diverse right now, so there's not a specific deck I would say that you have to be playing. So we also are just going to put Gigantha in our hand. Like I said, not bad whenever you don't have much else to do. So nothing specific in the meta right now that when Noda has been banned that you sort of have to play. So Rakdos is not the most typical deck, but also definitely not the worst or not playable or anything like that. It's not so niche that it can't be played. I think it was probably played a little more early on in the Explorer meta, and it's kind of losing its grip just a little, not quite enough compared to some of the bigger things people are doing. It can't quite keep people off their game plan enough. But I still think the deck is quite good, and I mean, our opponent there, we didn't even do too much, but they just didn't draw into anything playable. So, unfortunate one that doesn't really show off the deck, but you at least see it starts to accrue some of those combo pieces quite early, and can put some pressure on whenever you assemble the piece as well. Okay, so let's see if we can get a better game here. 2 lands is a touch risky to take, but because we have the Deadly Dispute, I'm not worried about it at all. We can drop down the Valdaran Epicure to create us a blood for this, and we also have that Experimental Synthesizer, which I'm not too afraid of playing on turn 2. This is certainly better if you can play it when you have 3 or 4 lands up, just to make sure that you can play whatever you use. So if you play it with 4 lands up, you will always be able to play any spell you have, because that Devil is the most expensive spell in your deck, so as long as you can leave up 3 mana, you're safe and you won't risk not being able to play it. But whenever you play it on turn 2, it gets a little bit tight. So let's see what we can find here and decide how we're going to go. So I'm really wanting to find my 3rd land here, because getting the Mayhem Devil is quite good, and so I actually think I'm going to play the Synthesizer. We do risk hitting either an Anvil or a Devil and not being able to play it. That is also pretty awkward, but I think it's worth the value to risk losing whatever card might be on top. A Familiar, we do lose that Familiar because it's exiled, but I think we're still end up okay here. We have a lot of good sack triggers for things. This next turn, if nothing else, we can sack to a Deadly Dispute to make sure we set up that 3rd land drop. And so I'm still feeling like we're doing okay in this matchup. A few options. My gut tells me the first and best play is to simply Deadly Dispute this Synthesizer, because that's going to draw us 2 and exile 1 off the top. And so I think that is the way that I need to go. And I'm doing it on this turn so that if this card was a land like it was, I get to play it this turn and not waste my Synthesizer's draw so that I can get max value. And now I want to go ahead and duress and see if there's something I can snatch and at least get the information of what is in their hand. So Massacre is a pretty hard card for us to deal with, so I will consider hitting that. Peer into the Abyss. That's so far away, I think we just have to let them keep that. That card doesn't matter. Target Permanent is pretty bad, but I think we let them have that. Shatter the Sky could be bad for us. I think Meat Hook Massacre is the most dangerous card in that for us, because it's going to cancel out our card draws whenever things die, and we want our creatures to die a lot, which would gain them a lot of life. So I think we go ahead and do that. Is quite nice. And then we'll put down this cat and go ahead and use our treasure. And then next turn we'll have some stuff to start going. I probably didn't need to play the cat now, and now that I'm looking at it, probably should have held off on the cat and just held up Fatal Push, because the treasure will let us do whatever we want. But I think we're still doing okay here. They're taking a long time to set up. They do have a 3rd land guaranteed. They could shatter, but shattering's not the worst thing for us. Our creatures can all come back and aren't super important. So we'll see what options we have available to us here. So they do have the option to shatter next turn for sure, if they so choose. We could also duress them. Several good options here, I think, for us. Neither of these creatures are particularly important, especially without my oven. I could try to lure them into a shatter, or I could just guarantee that they discard it. I think I'm leaning towards make them discard the Shadow the Sky. And I think that's good. And then we'll do this. And then next turn I will consider even... I think I want all of these cards. We'll go ahead and go to combat. If they want to give us a little trade, that's fine. That's actually the better trade because I want to sack this to the oven later. So that's great. So they're sitting on a potential Secret Rendezvous, or they could Assassin's Trophy, but that would feel kind of weird. I mean, if they want a Secret Rendezvous, I'm totally happy with that. Also, I think that's totally fine. We don't really have a lot of targets that are super bad. Yep, I think that's fine. Don't really have a problem with that. This looks like potentially they are running a something where they're actually going to try to have me draw all my cards. It's the only reason I can work out that these two cards are both in their hands. Peer into the Abyss. Unless they're just... Yeah, this card doesn't seem good enough to run unless you're trying to do something funny. Or maybe they have some combination in here where I'm punished for drawing cards, but I don't think we've seen that yet. So I'm curious to see what this deck is. I'm not familiar with it. Sure. That seems great with me. We get a nice combo up here. So that's going to feel lovely. Put this down for sure. I'm tempted to hold back a Mayhem Devil here. Mostly because I'm assuming that they're going to have another big kill spell. So I think I will hold back one Devil. And if they would do something like Shadow the Sky, we could sack both of these and then get my second cat back and really get something rolling. So that is going to be a good option. Okay, so... do Sagas sacrifice themselves? Huh. I guess they do. I never noticed that that's how those worked. After you sacrifice it. Huh, how funny. Okay, I think instead of Dispute, I think the better option is to sack the Mayhem Devil to the Witch so that we can get double cat combo going here. That will drain them out quite quickly. And we still have the option of disputing like this blood token, which I think I'll probably do. I don't get to go get the basic land, but I don't need to. We don't have any big mana plays. I think this is the way to go. Witch doesn't bother us. The way to protect your cat combo is to always have food or oven up. Like, for example, if I were to bring back this familiar and then sack with the oven, and then bring back the other familiar where I had no food or ovens for this turn, I had to wait for my ovens to untap, then my familiars would be vulnerable. So always either have an untapped oven or a food out when you're playing the cat combo. So I can go ahead and bring this back. Probably was supposed to sack this last turn as well to get one more damage, but that's okay. Also making lots of mistakes while playing here. I should have had this out. But I kind of wanted to rest and just see what they have. This information will be really good. The worst thing... Yes, okay, so this is a Underworld Dreams deck for sure. They have 5 mana. They definitely want to play Underworld Dreams. So potentially I just get rid of one of these. I'm also scared of Peer into the Abyss. I think we just get rid of Peer just because it's going to be able to do so much work. So he would be able to destroy the Mayhem Devil next turn. But I think that's fine. I think we want to force this instead of the Underworld Dreams for now. Because the Underworld Dreams is a lot bigger problem right now. So I think we're in a pretty decent spot. He should play this to hit the Mayhem Devil, in which case we'll sack both of these. Absolutely. Now we'll make him target the Devil. And then we'll ping down this and that. And he's just going to give it to us. So this deck is really resilient. That was a weird deck to go against, but I think you got a good example of the resiliency this deck has. So let's get another game, though. Okay, so jumping into another game here. Not a terrible start. We've got our colors and an anvil and an artifact. So I think we go ahead and do this. We also have the option of doing that turn 1 duress, which I probably will. Turn 1 duress, and then follow it up with the anvil, and then follow that up with the epicure, I think is the way to go. The other option, because, and what I'm actually talking myself into, because they probably won't have a lot to do early without having the Thoughtseize, will just be to epicure and then Rakdos and then duress later. I think that is what I want to do. And then we'll duress later and see what instants or sorceries. They're more likely to play creatures early on for most decks. So I think that's the way to go for now. So let's see what we're going up against here. Okay. Could be Esper Control. So that kind of changes things because this could be a counterspell. And I'm not loving the idea of my epicure or my oven getting hit. So let's go ahead and duress and then put out my oven and see what happens. Having this info will help me decide when to play what. Okay, so they do not have any counter spells. So they have 2 card draw spells, both of which discard them. They're definitely playing Greasefang. So that's pretty bad. They can play either of these. They have blue and then a black or white. So it's pretty fine either way they go. This does let him revive something later. So let's just hit that. Give him his card draw spell. We'll get my oven out. Greasefang is a difficult but not impossible matchup in the best of 1. You just need to pull a Fatal Push or the burn spell, the 1-mana burn spell. So we got to start digging for that just about more than anything else to make sure we're ready for that first Greasefang. He did not have any big equipment ready to discard yet, so that's going to potentially buy us some time. So that's really good. He's got to start drawing and discarding. Portable Hole is totally fine to see at this point. He's probably going to hit my oven. But the oven wasn't doing so much for us just yet. So I think we're still okay. Okay, now that we see a Fatal Push, I'm willing to start playing, but basically I'm just always going to be holding up 1 black mana to be ready for Greasefang, because if you've played against a Greasefang deck, it's not impossible to stop, but if they get out if they do the thing one time, you probably lose. If they bring out Greasefang and bring back one of the giant equipment vehicles, you're really in trouble. So we're prepared. They have Greasefang in hand, but they don't have another combo piece yet. And they do hit it right there. So this is exactly what I'll show you here. This will help us turn on our thing. So he brings down this, and then we can sacrifice the blood token. And the reason I'm doing that is so that this can hit a 4-drop. Because it only hits a 2 CMC or lower unless you've gotten rid of something. And now we need to dig for another one basically right away. They usually have ways to bring this back out of the graveyard. The Voltage Surge would have worked, so it's extremely unfortunate that we didn't draw the Voltage Surge. This can only hit a creature or planeswalker, so that's extremely unfortunate. Now the question is, do I sack the Epicure or sack this or just put Gigantha in my hand? I think we need card draw. Gigantha will not really save me against the Greasefang Sky Sovereign. Sky Sovereign is not as bad as Parhelion. You can come back from the Sky Sovereign. It's just harder. But I think what I do is tap the Anvil to get rid of this to see what I can play potentially this turn. That is terrible. That's the worst thing I could have hit. I only run 2 of those, and I hit them back to back. So that's incredibly bad. We at least have the Anvil combo set up, so I think we'll just chill for a minute and hope for the best. If he has the Revival spell in hand, we probably lose this one. But we do have some things we can do. So it's certainly not over. We're just going to rely on those last 3 Fatal Pushes in my deck, which makes me nervous. Hitting both of these was incredibly unlucky. That's for sure. But that's what happens sometimes. He also, we know, doesn't have a Revival spell here. So he's running low on card advantage. So that's extremely helpful. Now that's bad. That's not great. We were really banking on that. So that's quite unfortunate. We'll go ahead and do this just because we gotta get something to build back up to put the pressure on. Or at least draw a removal spell that's going to let us do something good. Okay, this is not the worst. This could help us put some pressure on as well. We're gonna go ahead and tap out to do this. And really just hoping they draw the wrong cards at least this turn so that we can get set up. It's really a top deck game at this point. So we're really just down to a matter of luck. This deck also top decks quite well because you run the Faithful Mendings. Being able to flash those back just gives you so much ability to churn through your deck. It's really quite a good deck. You got rid of Kaito. Shatter the Sky. That is real sad. Okay, that's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. Not sure what we need to draw to help us here. An experimental synthesizer would be pretty good. Another cat is not doing too much for me. We will get a Giganta down next turn, but it's probably going to be too slow. I mean, it's just the odds of them not drawing into a Grease Fang or a Revival spell at this point. We're pushing our luck. We're pushing our luck. This is a deck that we would be able to sideboard against really well in best of 3. This deck does sideboard pretty well because you could throw in 2 more of the Voltage Surges to help you out, and then there's also even more removal spells you can run if necessary. Thoughtseize gets real good against this deck because you can hit those Grease Fangs. That didn't really matter to us. That's fine. Giganta will be able to put a lot of pressure down, so that's going to be good. I think at this point I go ahead and hold on to this just in case I'm able to make a blood token. I can discard it. But really, like I said, we're just in a top deck battle here. Feels inevitable that they're going to draw what they need really soon. So I really need to draw a Fatal Push. That's not a Fatal Push. Okay. In turn, try again. I feel like they've got it. Come on. I mean, I feel like they've got it at this point. Okay. They do not got it. At this point, we just go ahead and use this to sack the treasure to make our little thing, get our little combo going up. That puts them within 2 swings of Giganta. Now, this is truly a do-or-die situation for them. I mean, the deck, we got a little luckier than I thought. I mean, we also got unlucky and haven't drawn any useful spells, but we'll see what they got. Even their combo piece now at this point, okay. We got lucky and won another one, so I mean, you saw how tight that one was. It was 1 draw away from either of us from being able to secure the win effectively, but that was solid. We did well. Let's get another one. Okay, so jumping into another game here. Again, a solid start. We can go Epicure into Anvil. We've got the backup Devil, 2 lands plus the Synthesizer to draw us cards later. I think this is quite a solid start for this deck. So we're going to lead off, as I mentioned, with the Epicure. And going on the play with this deck feels quite good, I think. Feels quite good. You're able to get down those low-cost things. Now, Mono Red is a pretty fine matchup for us, just because we get a good amount of chump blockers out that aren't really essential to us, but also because we're just slowly gaining a little bit of life every turn when we get set up. So, see, already we're back to 20. They're going to have to slap something down. Once we get a couple of these down, it's always possible to chump and then sacrifice and do all sorts of fun things. Okay, let's see. What does Kari's Zav do? It creates the monkey. A 2/4 Menace is obnoxious, but I think we just are able to put down a Mayhem Devil and then also the Epicure in front of it if we need to. And we're gonna start getting you guys are really gonna see the deck roll here because we're just gonna be able to ping so much damage. If they don't have some burn spells to get rid of particularly the Devil, they're really in trouble. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for them. It's also really hard to block this card. His Menace will get through. And we can't block the Monkey. Can't block that. That was... I haven't seen Goblin Chain Whirler for a long time, but that was This is as bad a matchup as any card could be for us, really, at this point. So that's kind of interesting. I think we start with Synthesizer, and then we can sack the Synthesizer to give us a little dork. That's unfortunate that we don't have another red mana. So let's see what else we can get. Hitting a mountain off of this one would feel great. What are the odds I get 2 more after this? If we play a mountain, we can bring in the Epicure. Nothing else really to sack at this point. Either way, I can definitely go... Okay, I could definitely go Cat Oven. I think I can get rid of this, but not the Chain Whirler just yet. Okay, it's a little sad. But I still think we're okay. We'll get rid of one of these. And I'm only going to do this now because I want the ping. I want to be able to get rid of this. I think if all of our stuff can survive a turn, we'll have enough. Ooh, actually I missed it. I missed it because we can also bring this back and we could have gotten to 3. So that was a little play mistake because this I think is my biggest threat at the moment. I would have been willing to risk the combo. Like I said, I have food up but not oven up. So I would have been risking the combo, but I would have been willing to risk it. Now that's just quite bad. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing for me to do at this point. I really want to be able to sack this next turn. So I'm going to take 4, 9. I think we take the 9 so that I can save this for a sack outlet. Oh man, guys. That was such a dumb play. I did not count Torbrand on the 2. That's just an L. Just a bad play, I think, all the way around. Let's see. I can sack this, which is 1. I can sack this, which is 2. I think I can deal 4. Let's just show off the little combo here of what we can get to. I think we can take down Torbrand this turn. This is a good way to see how not to play the deck. Don't let your most important creature die because you're not paying attention. So we sack 1 thing, we sack a 2nd thing. This lets us sack a 3rd thing. We might still play this one out just because our life gain, like I said, can do so much work. And then I'll put the cat at risk just so that I can get this final ping right here. And there we go. So the deck is resilient even when you play like an idiot. I should have taken the extra 4 damage, and then I would have had a 2nd Mayhem Devil. That's when it starts to get crazy. We could have spread 8 damage around. We could have gotten rid of Torbrand and the Chain Whirler and been in a really, really good spot. So this was a winnable game. I'm just not playing well. Or I just made 1 key mistake. I wouldn't say I'm not playing well. Made 1 key mistake, but sometimes that's all it takes whenever your game is already somewhat close. The unfortunate part here is that I really need all of these pieces. Now that's pretty unfortunate. So, yeah, I don't have any way to sacrifice anything. I can't kill anything over here. And, yep, that's a little sad. So I'll have the option to do 4 sacrifices, and with this oven, if I can survive this turn, which I will, I might even be able to squeeze through enough damage by putting all the devil 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can take all of this, and I have a small chance here of being able to sacrifice enough things and getting the win here. So let's see if we can pull it off. So we start with an oven, and this is any artifact that leaves the thing will do the thing. So if we can first do this, and it will still activate this. We're going to go straight to face. Perfect. We now have a food, so we bring back this. We sacrifice this food, which lets us ping him. It's going to be really close, guys. I don't know if I can pull it off. This gives us a food. So we ping this. We have 1 right here. This is 2 damage. I think we got it, guys. Ping right there, ping him there, bring back this. Boom, that's how the deck goes. Even when you make a misplay, doesn't matter. This deck is really quite good. I think you guys should check it out. I don't even have the thought seizes yet, but thank you so much for joining me for another video. I hope you liked how this video went. Let me know what you thought in the comment section, and have a nice day, my friend.